Welcome, warriors. October is Domestic Violence Awareness Month and Breast Cancer Awareness Month. And those are the two main traumas I've experienced in my life. They're not the only ones, but they have changed my life irrevocably. So I'm dedicating this month to stories of brave women who have faced one or the other. So grab a tissue and learn more about these two traumas and the women who faced them. Let's rock.
Does your past haunt you? Maybe you're in a storm that feels like it will never end. Are you fighting a battle that's rendering you hopeless? Maybe you feel like you're fighting alone, but your battle was not meant to be a solo endeavor. You were meant to be a warrior among warriors. My name is Heather, and I grew up thinking my battles were nobody's business until I found myself in an abusive marriage and felt cut off from all avenues of help. In this podcast, you will hear warriors' words. They will tell you of their battles, both won and lost, their journeys, and their lessons learned along the way. But we don't stop there. These warriors will share how they have applied those lessons to go from warrior to survivor to thriver. Whether it's an abusive marriage, illness, mental health crisis, or any number of traumas this world dishes out, these warriors will use their words to help you find the beauty in your broken, move beyond your battles, and become the thriver God created you to be. Pick up your sword or boxing gloves and join the battle. Your words are powerful, my friends. Make them warrior words.
Welcome back to the Warrior Words podcast. Before we dive into this week's episode, here's a review from Middle of the Road Mom. So good. Healing from trauma can be such a hard process. So thankful to have found a podcast that gives encouraging and practical tips for guidance. What a great resource. Thank you so much, Middle of the Road Mom. You're right. Healing is hard. And I'm grateful to hear that this podcast is encouraging to you and others on this healing journey. And for this episode in particular, as it is hopefully filled with some information and guidance for those traveling or supporting those traveling the domestic violence or breast cancer journeys. Would you like me to read your review on an upcoming episode? Please go to Apple Podcasts and leave a review for the show. Your comments and your star ratings help other people to find the Warrior Words podcast, and it takes just a few seconds of your time. And the Warrior Words Facebook community is open. Please come join us for inspirational stories, lessons learned, and beauty bombs. And if you want to know what a beauty bomb is, you'll have to come join us. So go to facebook.com/groups/warrior words and click the request to join button. A couple questions will pop up. Please answer those. And then I look forward to getting to know you a little bit better inside our community. Now, on to the show. Okay, just one housekeeping note before I begin. Any stats or definitions that I read or state will be cited in the show notes so you can reference them yourself, and that the original writer receives credit for his or her work. So on we go. According to Psychology Today, the Department of Justice in America defines domestic violence as, quote, a pattern of abusive behavior in any relationship that is used by one partner to gain or maintain control over another intimate partner, end quote. Now, despite its name, domestic violence does not always have to include physical violence. It can include emotional, psychological, financial, spiritual, and sexual coercion or manipulation. So ladies, that means you can be in a domestically violent situation, even if he doesn't punch you. Now, I also acknowledge that women are not the only ones abused in intimate relationships, but my listeners are mostly women, and the CDC's website states that women experience domestic violence at a rate of 41%, as compared to men at 26%. So ladies, are you called names, insulted, or talked down to? Are you required to avoid or lie to friends or family members to keep secrets or hide behavior? Are you denied basic needs such as medical care, enough money to buy groceries, access means to communication, or resources to care for your children? Are your beliefs, religious, political, or otherwise, used to shame or manipulate you or your decisions? Are you shamed into performing sexual acts that you don't want to? Are you forced to participate in any sexual activities? Even if you are married, this is still rape. So if you answered yes to any of those questions, you are likely in an abusive situation. Recently, I was a guest on another podcast, and I was asked if I would advise someone to leave an abusive marriage. I think I fumbled a bit on my response, so I'd like to answer that again here. If you or your children are being hurt physically and or psychologically, I would absolutely advise you to leave. But keep in mind that leaving doesn't mean divorce, and it doesn't have to be permanent. Sometimes leaving temporarily is enough to make an abuser wake up and take a different course of action. Not always, but sometimes. And let me be crystal clear on this. No one has the right to make anyone else a punching bag, and that includes you and your children. But I also understand that leaving isn't easy. It's scary, and there are many questions. Like, where do you go? What do you do for money? Is it legal? What if your abuser follows you? Will it make things worse? None of those are easy questions to think about, much less to answer. And unfortunately, the answers are different for each situation. To help you with that, can you find a friend, family member, priest, member of your church, or coworker whom you can confide in? This person can help you create and execute a plan of escape. He or she can be the calm in your storm and help you make smart and safe decisions. So, to wrap up the domestic violence portion of this episode, I want to read some statistics. That's a hard word to say, statistics, directly from thehotline.org, and that link will be in the description. This is an extremely helpful website for anybody in this situation. They even have a quick escape button on the site so that you can close out the page if your abuser enters the room. So I'll link that where these stats are located, and you can find all the original sources under each statistic. So here we go. The first one. An average of 24 people per minute are victims of rape, physical violence, or stalking by an intimate partner in the United States. That's more than 12 million women and men over the course of a single year. Number two, nearly 3 in 10 women, 29%, and 1 in 10 men, 10%, in the US have experienced rape, physical violence, and or stalking by a partner. Number three, 1 in 4 women, 24.3%, and 1 in 7 men, 13.8%, aged 18 and older in the US have been a victim of severe physical violence by an intimate partner in their lifetime. Number 5, almost half of all women and men in the US have experienced psychological aggression by an intimate partner in their lifetime. Number 6, more than half, 51.1% of female victims of rape reported being raped by an intimate partner. And last, the most common stalking tactic experienced by both female and male victims of stalking was repeated, unwanted phone calls, voice or text messages. Those are very sobering. And there are many more on that page. So check the show notes so that you can read them all for yourself. Now, before we move on, I want to throw in a little commercial break for my Ko-fi shop. I have created a few shop categories that I'm calling Stomp Out Domestic Violence and Stomp Out Breast Cancer. There are pink and purple shoes and trinket trays, or I guess jewelry dishes, included in those categories. So when you go to Ko-fi.com, it's ko-fi.com/warrior words, and click on the shop tab, you will see those categories. Once you decide what you like, there's an option to pay what you want with a minimum starting price. Shipping is prorated when you add more pieces. So from now until 11:59 p.m. Pacific Standard Time on October 31st, 2024, I will donate 10% of all purple sales to Purple It Up and pink sales to the National Breast Cancer Foundation. Let's make a difference this October and stomp out domestic violence and breast cancer. Now turning to breast cancer. The American Cancer Society states that breast cancer is the most commonly diagnosed cancer in America among women and the second leading cause of cancer deaths in U.S. women. In fact, 1 in 8 women will be diagnosed with breast cancer. And that's a sobering number, meaning that there are likely multiple women in your circle of family and friends who will be diagnosed with breast cancer. According to the National Breast Cancer Foundation's website, it is estimated that 310,720 women will be diagnosed with invasive breast cancer in 2024 alone, with an additional 56,500 women diagnosed with non-invasive breast cancer. Of these, the estimation is that 42,250 women will die due to their cancer. That's an 11.5% and a survival rate of 88.5%. While scary, a breast cancer diagnosis does not mean all hope is lost. When caught early, that 88.5% jumps to almost 99%. The key is early detection. So when your doctor advises you to do your self-exams, take it seriously. It could be a literal lifesaver. And after age 40, don't neglect your yearly mammogram. In some cases, you may want to start earlier, so this is a discussion to have with your doctor early on. One reason for this is if you have a direct relative who has had breast cancer, such as your mother, daughter, or sister. One of these relatives having breast cancer increases your chances of developing it by almost double. So if your mother, sister, or daughter has had breast cancer, make sure your doctor is aware of this history and you are vigilant in the plans you set up together. Outside of skin cancer, breast cancer is the most common cancer diagnosed in American women, with a diagnosis occurring on average of every 2 minutes. In 2024, breast cancer could account for 30% of all cancers diagnosed in U.S. women. But if it is caught early in localized stages, it is easier to treat and the success rates are much higher. So now that we have all the scary facts out of the way, what can we do? There's no one specific cause of breast cancer. It's just not known yet. But there are things that are known to contribute, and some of them you can control. So early detection through self-exams and mammograms, as I just mentioned, they're part of that. Exercising, not smoking, and monitoring your nutrition are part of it as well. These are all things over which you have at least some control. And this kind of control is empowering. So here are some more specifics about what you can control, and then you can find more details on the breastcancer.org website. Again, that will be linked in the show notes. So your weight. Being overweight or obese increases your risk of developing breast cancer in the first place, but staying overweight increases your chances of recurrence as well. Exercise. So piggybacking on the weight, regular exercise can reduce your risk of developing and recurrence. Pregnancy. So this is a direct quote from breastcancer.org. Women who have not had a full-term pregnancy or have their first child after age 30 have a higher risk of breast cancer compared to women who gave birth before age 30. Breastfeeding. Your risk of developing breast cancer is reduced if you breastfeed your children for longer than 1 year. Alcohol. Studies have shown that consuming alcoholic drinks increases a woman's risk for developing breast cancer. Smoking. For younger, premenopausal women, smoking can increase your chances of developing breast cancer. That's a lot of information. So, whether you know someone who is going through a domestic violence situation or someone who may be concerned about breast cancer, I hope I've given you a lot to think about. Things to look out for and things that you can do. So, who can you share this episode with? Who needs to hear something that will encourage them in either of those journeys? Something to think about this week. And I want you to join us for the next 4 weeks as I have conversations with both domestic violence and breast cancer survivors. Their stories are incredible, and I can't wait to share them with you. So, until we meet again, armor up, fight the good fight, seek beauty, and make your words warrior words. God bless.